World Wide Web. So it's Cypher Sigma here, it's a weekend, and yes, as the title will show you, this is the new film, and I say new film, called Lee. So this has always been produced, as far as I can tell, and ready in 2023. It must be right strike or other issues why the movie hasn't come out until, or at least in the UK, hasn't come out until September 2024. This is the story of Lee Miller. It is an hour and 56 minutes long and stars a fairly capable cast. Alex Skarsgård as Roland, kind of the husband of Kate Winslet's character Lee Miller herself. You have Andy Samberg as David E. Schmener, who kind of helps Lee throughout her story, and then and it's directed by Lara Ellen Kuras, who is only kind of done TV series up until now, when she's done episodes of The Ozark and Umbrella Academy. So anybody who does or doesn't know, you watched the trailer. It doesn't give too much away, but basically you see that she is a photographer, and she's basically taking pictures around World War II. That is essential. That is what the trailer gives away. Actually, what the story is of this is a real life person, which I didn't know until the very end. And this kind of chronicles her life. She is one of only 3 people who took pictures during World War II. And obviously she has quite a lot of story and depth, and she's world renowned for this. Obviously I had never even heard of her. I thought this was a work of fiction, but it wasn't. I did like it. It doesn't seem, apart from the credits, when the credits come up, it tells you a little bit about her, and then it has photos of her work and some comparisons between her and Kate Winslet. So we shall bang the spoiler warning up, and I shall get into it. So yes, so as I said, this is the story of Lee Miller. This starts with a young lad in the room with Kate Winslet, a very old looking Kate Winslet, very well done makeup, and basically he's asking her questions, trying to find out what went on, and basically the understanding of the photos and everything else, and then this spurs on the story. Then basically this conversation kind of cuts back and forth only a few times throughout, and then leads to a final scene. You find out that Lee Miller was an actress at one point, or a model. She was in front of the camera, had the pictures taken, then she decided that she wanted to take pictures, and she'd kind of stepped away from that side of thing. Had some friends in France and has a quite fun time. Meets her husband Roland, as all we assume her husband's Roland. We never get to see them get married. During this time, this is when obviously the Hitler uprising happens, and obviously affects a lot of people in France. Roland, her husband, is from the UK, and that's where she is based. She manages to get a job working for Vogue, or UK Vogue. And as the war goes on, she wants to get more involved and be sent over there, but unfortunately it doesn't happen. The paper won't send her because of UK laws and licensing, until she comes across Andy Samberg's character, who helps her out a little bit with her photography, and comes to the realisation that, oh, she's actually American, not English, and thus she goes over there during the war to take pictures, and obviously of certain stuff. She is a woman, so she's restricted to certain access. Obviously Andy Samberg manages to meet up with her later in the war, and then they basically start coming across stuff. She starts taking photos and sending back, and obviously these are quite traumatic events of the people, obviously the effects in France, and then she goes further afield, leading into Germany, obviously leading into a managing to get into Hitler's flat, and a famous photo that she takes in a bathtub with Andy Samberg's help. And then from there, they then go to the concentration camps, and obviously meet some of the victims and stuff of the whole regime. Andy Samberg, a quite touching scene he had at one point of it. During this, the friends that Kate Winslet's character Lee Miller has made, she comes across some of them. They're 2 couples basically. One, she finds the wife, but the husband has disappeared, and the wife seems to have been in some sort of camp or that for several months. It's very emaciated. And then the other couple, who is, I think, a kind of poet, she comes across him late, and they have a nice evening that together. But obviously they then find out a bit more of obviously everything that's gone on. If you didn't meet Hitler's blonde hair, blue eyes kind of thing. You were got rid of, people of colour and ethnicity and everything else, and it is quite, the characters are quite shaken up by this. Obviously, once all the pictures are done and everything, and you do have a scene with Roland coming back and asking us to come back, and she's like, no, it ends up going further into Germany to find this out. Obviously, there's always a risk that you could get shot and killed. And then she takes these pictures, they're quite graphic, sends them off to the paper, and then she returns home to, you could kind of call it normality, but is it really normality after you've been seeing some horrific sights? Obviously, these aren't really, you don't really get to see too much of them, and the photos are kind of she's in the room like now, and the bodies could be all around you, but you don't really see them, and then she takes the picture, and then you may get to see the picture at a later date. So it isn't as graphical or as graphic as a representation from that side of things. Obviously, she returns home, the magazine's released, and none of her photos are in there. She gets irate, goes in there, complains, cuts up a load of her photographs and stuff like this. And then there's a revelation that she reveals to her boss. And obviously it's in link to a young girl that she took a picture of, who was kind of you don't really know kind of what happens, but obviously it is insinuated that obviously stuff was done to that little girl, and obviously that links to what the Lee Miller character reveals. Then it kind of all combinates back into the room. And as Kate Winslet is speaking to the young lad, she asks him what he thinks of her mother, and he was like, "Oh, my mother wasn't a very good mum. She wasn't really there for me. Blah 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 blah. I felt like I never lived up to her. Blah blah blah." He gets up and walks to the window. Kate Winslet gets up, pulls a box from underneath a chair, hands it to him, and she says, you'll be surprised, actually you were. And then flick, Kate Winslet's not there. He's just holding the box. Turns out this whole thing is, and it details this at the end, basically her son never knew about what she photographed or what she went through. He found a box in her attic after she had passed, and it's kind of from that this story has evolved into. And that's the story of it. What did I think? So I will rate this movie. I've been going back and forth, so I'm going to do it 6 out of 10. It is a good movie. It is a very interesting movie. A few things I found. I mean, the ending I didn't really appreciate. I mean, the fact it's a son. He's not interviewing her. She's not there. He's basically coming through all these memories. It wasn't that kind of setup, and back and forth didn't work for me. I don't know why. I know they wanted maybe a twist, but I don't know why it wasn't a young lad. His mum's passed, he's very upset. He goes into the attic, he finds these boxes, and then he starts looking through them. And as he looks through them, we then get to see the story of Lee Miller and her life. That would have made more sense to me. And yes, there is no twist, but there were some revelations in there of and this is all based on a book, so I don't know if it's a book. Obviously, Lee Miller was obviously molested as a child by a family friend or something, which I'm not sure why that needed to be. I see they kind of tried to make a reference to the girl, but even the girl in the story you didn't see enough to know she was. And this is I enjoyed it. I didn't know, as I say, she was a real person. I didn't know this was a real story, so I've learned it on that. It's not something I necessarily rush back to pick up, because Kate Winslet, I do love her. She was in Mare of Easttown, which I think was a year or 2 years ago. Great series, and she's a good actress, and there was, in the settings, and it was done really, really well. And if you like World War II and want to know stuff about this or about her, you will probably really set this a lot higher, and you'll absolutely love it and find it's amazing. For me, I'm not too big, I enjoy war movies, but I'm not too big at revisiting that. And for me, the story very much switched. So you have the story from A to B, and you're going down this line, and literally as you're going down this line, it's like, okay, this is Kate Winslet's character and personal stuff and personal, and this is it. And then it scrolls back and it's like, right, then there's World War, and it kind of dips into there. And as you're seeing the Holocaust and stuff, it then flashes back or links back to her personal life. So even though you want to know about this side of things and history and everything that went on, it more kind of goes back and forth, and it goes back and forth, and I don't think it worked as well as it could have done, because I think by the end of the movie you're more interested in the characters rather than the World War itself, and you kind of see that as a secondary thing, which I think it should be the other way around. But not only that, is by the end of the movie and stuff of, you know, Lee Miller's gone through this harrowing life earlier in life, but it turns out she was a rubbish mum. Her family didn't really think, or her son really didn't think too much of her and stuff like this. And I don't think it was, you know, yeah, she's appreciated as a charity and everything like this now, but as a story, it's not really detailing her, even though there's more focus on World War II and stuff. I think a better understanding would have, you know, been that this is her journey that you were on, and then I think through that you would have got more of a link to the story and everything else. But anyway, that has been my review for the movie Lee. Have you seen this movie? What did you think? Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. I've been 5 Sigma Screen Time, and I shall see you in the next one.